So I think Kansas State has a little bit of a coming out party here because I think they put a lot of their attention and focus on this game, and they're due for kind of a bigger performance. It's kind of like the dog being let out of its cage a little bit here after you go after UT Martin and Tulane.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
Hello and welcome into another edition of 3 Mile. I am John Kurtz, joined by Derek Young and Cole Manbeck. We've got the whole crew here with you today, and we are going to start breaking down K-State's schedule. We'll take it in thirds, so we'll do the first 4 games of the year. We're going to get through the non-con plus that first conference game of the year at BYU. Now, I'm going to say that Provo, Utah is probably not a target market for our friends at Holiday Distillery, but, you know, the rest of the games before that, I'm sure there will be plenty of people drinking Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon and or 360 vodka from our good friends at Holiday Distillery. They are huge cat fans. They love the podcast, so that means you guys need to go out and support them. We certainly appreciate that, and we hear from plenty of you guys who do. So check out the Ben Holiday bottled in bond bourbon and or 360 vodka from our friends at Holiday Distillery. All right, season getting close here. It's August 12th as we record today. It's coming around the bend. It's coming around the bend. We've got, I would say, a tricky-ish non-conference schedule to talk about here for K-State. No offense to UT Martin, but beyond that, I mean, a game at Tulane, a home game with Arizona, who starts the season ranked in the top 25 of the coaches poll. Like, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about a lot of players needing to show that they can do it. Well, we know they have the talent. They've got to step up and show that they can do it. I will say it's not exactly the easiest non-conference schedule in the world to get ramped up here.
It's not. And if you want to get Kansas State, you would say we'd like to get Kansas State early before some of those proven commodities really get on the ground and hit the ground running or hit their stride. But conversely, if you want to get Tulane early, you probably want to get them early because they have a new coach. If you want to get Arizona, you probably want them early because they have a new coach.
Yeah, certainly I think those are helpful, but I do think like when you look at the schedule difficulty, and Kansas State's been noted as having one of the easiest schedules in the Big 12 and Big 12 play, but when you look at the overall schedule in the non-con, I mean, K-State's is really quite challenging. Obviously, West Virginia has a very difficult schedule playing Penn State and Pitt, but K-State is right up there. The Tulane game's really tricky. Playing in the Bayou, playing in New Orleans, you know, in early September, it's going to be really hot, going to be really humid. It's a Tulane program that's won 23 games the last 2 years, and we'll get into them more. But John Summerall, the Troy head coach, comes over to Tulane. Well, Summerall took Troy coming off 3 seasons where they went 15-20 combined and 9-14 in the Sun Belt, took Troy to a 23-4 record in his 2 seasons there, and led them to 2 Sun Belt Conference championships. So, yeah, they got one heck of a coach.
I think that helps K-State because they played against this team last year.
See, Stan Weber actually didn't like, when we had him on, he didn't like that Troy and Summerall knows K-State now, and especially him being a good defensive mind. But I think it goes either way.
I would say I would disagree because I think Kansas State's going to look quite a bit differently, especially on offense.
Well, yeah, you can make the case then that an entirely new team will probably look very different as well for Tulane. I don't know. That probably washes out, I would think. But, hey, Stan knows a lot more football than I do, so maybe I should defer a little bit there. Do we have any info on UT Martin?
I would just say that if Kansas State has some struggles at any point, like they did, what was the year with Southern Illinois, I want to say, where that one didn't go as smoothly, at least at the beginning. If that happens with UT Martin, then I'm probably concerned for the remainder of the non-conference schedule because this is not like a top 10, top 15 tier 1 FCS team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned, and I'll dive in just and give 1 minute synopsis of UT Martin in a minute just to tee things up, though, as we break down the K-State schedule. It's a really entertaining schedule when you look at the overall outlook, and Bill Connolly of ESPN has his top 5 highest SP plus rated games in the 2024 schedule in the Big 12, and K-State is a part of 3 of those, with Arizona at K-State, and then Utah at Oklahoma State is one, Oklahoma State at K-State September 28th is another, Arizona at Utah and then K-State at Iowa State. So K-State is a part of 3 of his 5, and Kelly Ford's most watchable games, his watchability scores that he has week by week during the season. Week 2 against Tulane, K-State's game ranks number 7th in his highest watchability game in the country. Week 3, 9.2 watchability score, which is number 3 in college football that week against Arizona. Week 5, number 4 most watchable game, entertaining game in the country against Oklahoma State. And you could go down the list. K-State has 7 games that rank in the top 7 of those respective weeks throughout the season. So it's a schedule that is going to be pretty entertaining for human eyes to watch. And when you think about UT Martin, guys, I mean, just at a high level, it's a program that's 25-10 over the last 3 years, 15-2, and their league. It's the second year of the Big South Ohio Valley Conference Association where they kind of merged together. UT Martin has won or shared 3 straight of their respective conference championships. They were co-champs with Gardner-Webb in 2023. K-State played SEMO last year, right? K-State defeated SEMO 45-0. They're in the Big South Ohio Valley Conference. SEMO was picked to win the league last year. They didn't. UT Martin did. They shared the championship. K-State dominated SEMO. Look, it's a respectable FCS program. Jason Simpson's one of the longest tenured coaches there, 18 years at the program. You know, they really struggled until he took over. In fact, they'd only won 20 Ohio Valley games in its first 14 seasons in the league, in UT Martin's first 14 seasons. And since then, they've really taken a lift or a leap there. They returned 14 starters overall, 8 on offense, 6 on defense, respective defense last 2 seasons. And they also have a pretty good offense. In fact, they're top 30 offense in the FCS ranks and top 30 defensively. Last 2 seasons, played at Georgia, lost 48-7, played at Tennessee, lost 65-24, and lost at Boise State 30-7.
And that is not your older brother's Boise State either. They're receiving votes in the top 25, the preseason FCS top 25. They're the second team out of the poll, so they'd be like the 27th ranked FCS team in the country, essentially. So it's not like, Oklahoma State's got to play South Dakota State. It's much scarier. They are the preseason number 1 team above North Dakota State in the FCS poll, and North Dakota State is playing at Colorado. So not quite that level of scare here in week 1. Side note, why can I remember not a single damn thing, even after looking at the box score? I cannot remember a single thing about the Southern Illinois game, other than, was that when Skylar Thompson got hurt?
I don't
Chris
remember.
Clement came out and did the kneel down next to him and was upset and thought that was going to be like a season-ending injury, but then it wasn't. Wasn't that Southern Illinois? Because it shows that Skylar Thompson only threw 4 passes.
Oh, then that might have been. All I know is that game was not very fun.
We played Southern Illinois.
Yeah, I don't remember it. 2021. I don't remember it. It was.
And they were ranked similarly to what UT Martin is right now.
31-23 was the final score. Skylar Thompson threw 4 passes. Will Howard then went 8 of 17 for 76 yards.
I think that was the Skylar game, because I was right. That would have been the season immediately after COVID.
Oh, that's one of those games where Will had to come in and be a hero. Okay, so yeah, 31-23, and Will's. So
that was pretty well played. Well played.
But 31-23, I'm saying it that's what I'm talking about. If they have to do something like that against UT Martin, then I don't feel great.
Yeah, and part of the reason I was so close, John, is because Will Howard threw a pick 6. So, and then Will Howard fumbled.
You got something you want to say here, Cole, or what's?
No, I actually really like Will, so I'm just having a little fun.
I'm going to Columbus this week. You want me to pass anything along to him?
No, wish him the best. I genuinely really like Will. That was probably a cheap shot, but just having a little fun there. I did not remember that, but yeah, I mean, you think about some of the FCS teams. Chris Kleinman's played at Kansas State. Nichols as well. I think in 2019 was it Nichols, and they were ranked. Yeah, they were ranked top 15, and K-State dominated. SEMO was, I think, ranked top 15 last year, picked to win their league. Again, the same league that UT Martin's in. K-State dominated. I don't think they'll have any concerns here. Kansas State will start the quest to hitting my over-unders, and the numbers will soar as Kansas State will win 52-3.
Yeah, I don't think they have any issues. I was just saying, if it ends up like the Southern Illinois game, then I would have great concern for the remainder of the non-conference slate.
Yeah.
I'll say Kansas State went 42-7.
What's funny, I was like, DY, you said that, and I was looking back. I was like, well, I remember 2018 when they damn near lost to South Dakota. Now, that was obviously Snyder, but, there was that one. And I was like, well, wait, is he talking about Arkansas State when they lost in 2020? Like, no. And then I was like, oh, they did damn near lose to Southern Illinois then in 2021. What the hell was happening there for a minute?
By the way, they should have lost to South Dakota in 18. If we just want to reflect a little bit there, they were down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, there was like some super heroics.
Isaiah Zuber was the hero.
Wow, you got Eastern Kentucky too, right, John, and UMass a couple times in the Snyder 2.0 era.
Yeah, I mean, that's going. In fairness, that is going back to, we're talking about 2009 and 2011. But
yeah, I mean, 18 would have been a game I covered at least.
18, 20, and 21. They had a pretty rough stretch there. I don't think they'll have any problem. I mean, I don't know that they're going. I feel like you don't see 52-3 a ton anymore, especially breaking in a lot of new faces here at the beginning of the year. I mean, I would go more like 45-17. I don't take K-State to win 45-17.
I don't know that I'd be feeling good if they give up. The defense is the strength of the team, giving up 17 UT Martin. But we'll see.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's fine. There's a million ways they could put up the points. It could be against the 2s and 3s late in the game. Like,
You're right.
Let's not parse that too much. I don't think we need to go that far. That Tulane, I'll be honest, like I don't know very much about Tulane's team this year, other than obviously they have a new coach. It was interesting when I was at Big 12 Media Days in Vegas, and I interviewed Willie Fritz, and I made the comment. It was kind of like a foot in your mouth sort of moment. He was super nice about it, but I made the comment like, hey, you change jobs here, similar kind of spots, right? A school that has had moments that can win big and is in a major city. And he kind of stopped me. He's like, no, there's actually like virtually nothing the same about them. He was like, Houston is way bigger than New Orleans. It's better population base to recruit from. It's a bigger school. Like he rattled off like 6 things that are different and better. So he poo-pooed did the Tulane job a little bit. But as you mentioned, Summerall coming over from Troy. He's obviously a great coach. It's a place Tulane has proven that you can win. They won in Manhattan a couple of years ago when K-State won the Big 12. So there's every reason to be on alert about this game. It will be a test. I'm not sure what kind of a crowd you can really expect there, to the point that Willie Fritz was making about what it's like at Tulane. But I don't know. Cole, I'm going to need you to tell me more about their team before I decide how actually concerned I am.
Well, it's hard to gauge, obviously, because Summerall is coming over, but I'll give you a quick summary here. So they finished, Tulane did, in the SP Plus ranking in 2023 on ESPN, number 59 in the country. In 2022, they were number 26. I already said they won 23 games in the last 2 seasons. Their 2024 SP Plus projection, they're projected to finish number 65 in the country, projected to win 7 games per Bill Connolly. Offense projected to rank number 72 in the SP Plus. Defense projected number 55 in the country in the SP Plus. DraftKings has Tulane at plus 330 to win the American Athletic Conference. That's the second best odds in the American, behind only Memphis. Also, they're projected in the preseason AAC preseason poll to finish 3rd behind Memphis and UTSA. I already mentioned, look, they finished 11-1 in the regular season last year, and then they lost on their home field in the American Conference Championship to SMU, which had a really good year. Then they lost in the Military Bowl to Virginia Tech. Don't put any stock in that. Willie Fritz had already left to be the head coach at Houston, and the Green Wave had a ton of opt-outs in the game. Obviously, we know Tulane came to K-State in their 12-win season and won, and then knocked off USC in the Cotton Bowl to finish a 12-2 season. They went 2-10 in 2021. But in the season opener at Oklahoma, they nearly knocked off the Sooners. They lost just 40-35. And I bring that up because a team that went to Tulane last year in week 2 of the season, and I watched this game, was Ole Miss. Ole Miss obviously finished the year ranked, finished 11-2, finished ranked in the top 10 in the country. And Tulane had Ole Miss on the ropes in New Orleans. The final score was 37-20, but it was nowhere near indicative of how the game played out. In fact, Tulane, playing without their star quarterback, Michael Pratt, who was ruled out before the game. They're playing with a backup at QB. They led 17-10 at halftime, and then they were down 20-17 inside the Ole Miss 35 with less than 7 minutes remaining, failed to convert a 4th and short. Then the game kind of got out of hand. There was a fumble return for a touchdown, out of desperation when Tulane was desperately trying to score that, made the score look far bigger than it was. Tulane's last year, they defense ranked number 36 in points per drive allowed. In 2022, they were number 13 nationally in offensive points per drive. Last year in 2023, they were number 49 in the country at offensive points per drive. Look, John Summerall, the one thing I'll highlight about him, he's going to bring a really good defense to the Tulane football program. Troy's defense each of the last 2 years ranked top 10 in the country in defensive points per drive. K-State saw it last year. The Wildcats did fairly handle Troy easily in Manhattan, winning 42-13. But Troy finished last season 26th in the country in the SP+. I just mentioned Tulane was right around 59th or so in the SP+ last year. Troy was far higher. They won 11 games as well. He's going to bring a really good defense to that Tulane program. And the other thing I'll highlight, they brought in some big-time talent, as DY knows, and DY can hit on this as well. But they've got high pedigree type talent that's mostly unproven, but Mario Williams, a wide receiver transfer from USC, formerly at Oklahoma before that. He was the number 33 player and number 3 receiver in the country in the 2021 recruiting class. He's had over 1,300 yards receiving in his career, over 100 receptions. As a sophomore at USC, he had 630 yards. He's transferred to Tulane. Ty Thompson, 5-star quarterback from Oregon, number 6 quarterback in the country, number 31 player in the 2021 recruiting class, 6'4" quarterback. He's going to be their starter at QB. Kai Preen, a transfer wide receiver from LSU who didn't play as a freshman last year. And then you guys remember this name, Shaz Preston, number 50 player in the country, number 6 receiver in the On3 consensus rankings in the 22 class, transferred to Tulane as well. He took an official visit to K-State when it was frigid outside and sub-zero temperatures, and obviously chose Tulane as a result. So they've got some high pedigree talent, some high-end talent. It'll just be a matter of how quickly can Summerall get that team to gel.
A little bit of the chatter is that they'd be better off if one of their other quarterbacks beat out Ty Thompson. I haven't heard really good things about Ty Thompson, so that's an interesting wrinkle to all of this. There's some speculation that he might not even be good enough to win that quarterback job.
Okay.
Yeah. It feels to me like a game I would expect this could be a spot where you might have to work some kinks out on the offense for K-State. On the other side, you're going to have a couple of strong defenses playing in the game. I'm feeling like a lower scoring sort of game here in K-State winning like 27-13, somewhere around there. I
could see that. It's something we probably didn't talk about nearly enough. I think Tulane is going to be a running team more than they are a throwing team because of that quarterback situation they might have already. Mekhi Hughes ran for over 1,300 yards last year. Was the Sun Belt newcomer of the year, I believe. So I think Tulane's going to try to probably take the air out of the ball. Kansas State might, the way that they're composed, at least early in the season. So I can see Kansas State winning this one 24-14.
Yeah, and look, they're replacing Pratt, who had 90 passing touchdowns in his 4-year career at Tulane, nearly 30 rushing touchdowns, threw for nearly 9,500 yards in his career. That's a big loss. And DY, you mentioned I was not aware of the quarterback questions that they might be having regarding that. And Hughes is a really good player. They brought in some big transfers. In total, Summerall brought in 10 offensive transfers and 11 on the defensive side of the ball, including 6 in the secondary. He brought both his coordinators over from Troy as well, which might help with the continuity a little bit. But yeah, I'll take K-State to win this game 31-20.
I was waiting for Cole to drop in. I'll take K-State 55-10. Yeah. You better get to work here. This Arizona game better be crazy if we're going to hit your stats. Let's keep that in mind if we're going to be consistent here.
Well, he scored 52 in week 1, so we're already on.
I don't know. That's
31 on Tulane's not bad.
Yeah. Cole appears to be wearing home field apparel today. Derek, are you wearing home field apparel today?
Yeah. Shout out to Cade McNamara's unbelievable performance.
That's what I heard. I heard at the open scrimmage that Iowa had.
7 for 21 yards, 7 for 21 for 20 yards, a pick 6 and a fumble. Unbelievable.
So it sounds like things are going great. I was in Iowa City visiting my sister last year on the same day that they had that whole thing. Yeah, and I walked up there to find out that he had tweaked his knee or something at that thing. Why do they do that? Iowa, maybe stop having that day. Just have the day, let the fans come, but don't play in front of people. It's bad PR. Anyway, if you want to get Iowa gear at homefieldapparel.com, you can. Derek is. You can do that. If you want the Big A Champs basketball shirt that Cole has, you can get that at homefieldapparel.com. Obviously, you can get the football boxes as well. At least I think. I don't know. Are they sold out? Can you still get the football boxes? K-State's has been released. It's a sweet box, exclusive items that are in there that you can't get anywhere else. I particularly love the hoodie that is in there. But even if you can't get that, there are 50 plus other K-State items that are available, all at homefieldapparel.com. And you can get 15% off your first order using promo code 3MA24. That's promo code 3MA24 for 15% off your first order at homefieldapparel.com. And we're back in just a moment.
We appreciate you supporting KC Sports Network by listening to our podcast. You have helped us become the highest-ranked Chiefs podcast network in 2022 and 2023. And don't forget about our daily Substack newsletter, the best written analysis you can find on the Chiefs straight to your inbox every day. kcsn.substack.com.
You know when you discover a new binge-worthy show or a song that you play on repeat and you just have to share it with your friends so they can experience just how awesome it is too? Well, that's how we felt when we discovered that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. It's such an awesome deal, there's no way we could keep it to ourselves. Friends don't let friends overpay for wireless. Say bye-bye to your overpriced wireless plan and switch to Mint Mobile. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text, delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your own phone number and bring along all your friends. Ditch overpriced wireless with Mint Mobile's deal and get 3 months of premium wireless service for just $15 a month. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/3ma. That's mintmobile.com/3ma. Cut your wireless bill to just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/3ma. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
If you guys want to be a part of the show and you want to get your opinion on the show, your questions, comments, etc., you know what to do. You can hit up the KCSN hotline, which is powered by Mint Mobile, 913-407-6524, 913-407-6524. Shoot us a text, send your questions and comments to the KCSN hotline powered by Mint Mobile. If you're a former athletic director at K-State, you are certainly welcome. We heard from John Curry last week. Apparently, I have not been sent any messages since then, so I guess nothing too exciting. Tim Weiser not sending us any messages. So, I don't know. What other former athletic directors we have?
Fan of the show, though.
He is. Tim Weiser is a great dude. I just talked to him last week. Great dude. Anybody else? Calm, Orambe, anybody from the Discord, you guys can get in there too. And if you want to be a part of our Discord community, patreon.com/3ma to sign up for that. We have arrived at the most important game of this third of the schedule. That is Arizona. And that, of course, is going to be our top storyline here for this episode, which is brought to you by our friends at Alinco. If you have any home improvement needs, make sure you hit up our friends at Alinco, alincohome.com, ALENCO home.com to get linked up with them. This will be a top 25 matchup in all likelihood, assuming there are no stumbles heading into the game. Arizona has drawn a sizable amount of hype, and rightfully so. They have a tremendous, they may have the best receiver in the country. He's certainly in the conversation. He's probably a top 3 to 5 wide receiver in the country in Teteroa McMillan. Noah Fafita, tremendous quarterback last year, kind of came out of nowhere at the beginning of the year and put together a phenomenal season. He is really, really fun to watch. They have a lot of high-end talent. I think, to me, the questions will be, how do you integrate with a new head coach in Brent Brennan, who has not been a coach at the Power 4 level? And one thing that I've heard some chatter about here, look, I know Arizona, they've had to go to Autzen, they've had to go to Husky Stadium, so they played in some tough environments. But I do get this vibe that, Pac-12 teams, the four corners coming into the Big 12, maybe underestimating a bit what the environments are going to be like in some of these games in Big 12 country. And this is going to be a really hyped up environment on a Friday night in Manhattan.
I would agree. And we saw it last year, unfortunately, but a lot of times these in-week games, these non-Saturday games, do heavily favor the home team because their routine is shaken up the least. You saw that in the Pac-12 over the years. Really, a home team wins this kind of game a lot. So I think that's one thing that kind of goes into the Kansas State favor as well. Two is, if, like I said, if you're going to get Arizona, you'd like to get them early just because they are going to be integrating an entire new system on both sides of the ball because of having a new coaching staff. They're new to the Big 12. I think that also is in favor of Kansas State. So a lot of these things are kind of going in favor of Kansas State. Ted McMillan, really good wide receiver. There is still some questions about his health entering the season as well. That maybe he's not hitting in all cylinders until October. Favors Kansas State. Arizona's weakness on the defense is their defensive line. Kansas State's question mark on offense is the offensive line. So if you're Kansas State and you want a weakness on Arizona, you'd like it to be their defensive line. I really like a lot of the matchups that are kind of going in Kansas State's direction that I've just mentioned.
Just a huge opportunity being a Friday night game on Big Fox and being a matchup of two top 25 teams. I just mentioned Kelly Ford has it as one of his most watchable games that weekend. I believe number 3 with a watchability score of 9.2. Number 3 of that entire September 13th through the 15th weekend in all of college football. And, you got Arizona, which is number 21 in the coaches poll, coming to Manhattan, number 17. And we'll see if that changes. Arizona shouldn't lose in the non-con. And we have K-State going into that game 2-0. So a real opportunity for the program to uplift themselves as they head into Big 12 play and score a really nice resume boosting win on their college football playoff resume if they don't win the Big 12 and you start talking about an at-large berth potentially. So big opportunity for K-State. It's an Arizona team, as everybody knows, that won their last 7 games to end last season after starting the year 3-3, finished the season 10-3 overall, final SP Plus ranking in 2023 of number 18 in the country. The offense finished number 9, defense number 41. The 24 SP Plus production has Arizona ranked number 24 in the projections, with the offense ranked number 12 and the defense number 49. Kelly Ford has them as the number 25 team in the country with the number 14 offense and the number 50 defense. Net points per drive last year ranked number 11 in the country at plus 1.24. That's the point per drive differential between the offense and the defense. Arizona was number 10 in the country with 3.08 points per drive, while the defense improved drastically. They went from 124th in Kelly Ford's defensive rankings last year to top 50 in the country. I think actually top 40, which shows the significant jump that the Wildcats made. They had ranked 90 or worse in Kelly Ford's defensive rankings in the country 7 of the last 8 seasons until last year. So they were number 27 in defensive points per drive. And then Bill Connolly's returning production for Arizona, number 28 overall out of 133 FBS teams at 68%. Could have been a lot worse, but they got Fafita and McMillan back. He was able to retain a lot of those guys that could have hit the portal when he took over, and there's the coaching change with Jed Fish going to Washington. Offense returned 71% of the production, defense 66%. You guys already mentioned it, but Fafita is outstanding. He was top 7, top 6 in the country in passing efficiency last year. McMillan, if you look at ESPN's projections for draft prospects, Pro Football Focus as well, Pro Football Focus has McMillan being as a top 5 player in the 2025 NFL draft. Jordan Reed and Matt Miller, ESPN NFL draft experts, both have McMillan ranked just behind Luther Burden of Missouri as the number 2 wide receiver in the 2025 NFL draft. He's going to be a high-end first-round pick at wide receiver. They got an offensive tackle in Sevenia as well, who's projected to go top 40 in the draft. In fact, guys, ESPN had an article up just a couple days ago written by Jordan Reed of ESPN that said it listed the top 10 teams in college football with draft prospects, most draft prospects. Arizona wasn't one of those 10, but they included an under-the-radar team to watch, and Arizona was that team because of guys like Tacario Davis, a 6'4" corner who's projected to be a late round or maybe mid-round, first-round pick, McMillan, and then obviously Sevenia, the offensive tackle as well. K-State, I mentioned, finished number 15 in ESPN's SP Plus last year overall in the new look 16-team Big 12. That was the best mark out of the teams in the SP Plus. Arizona was number 2 out of those teams. K-State's offense finished number 7 in the country in ESPN's SP Plus rankings last year. That was number 1 in the Big 12. Arizona was number 9. Those are the first and second marks, respectively, in the league. So we're talking about a big-time offense coming into Manhattan. I don't need to give more numbers on them. We'll dive in more when we do the preseason pregame show on the Wildcats on game week. But it's going to be one fun matchup.
It is, and look, I'm sitting here thinking, man, I picked K-State to go 9-3. Like I've got to pick a loss at some point, and honestly, I'm debating between I've got a loss here in the first quarter of the season, and to me, I go back and forth between will you get I would say like a more typical kind of climb and dud when they're on the road at BYU next week, or is it this home game against Arizona? And even though Arizona is a much better team, I find it harder to believe that they would lose at home with this kind of environment, this sort of matchup. One thing I will point out, last year, Cole, how many times did I talk about, like, every time K-State was losing a game last year, they were doing it with a ton of people watching. It was always like when they had these games where everybody was tuned in. You had the Oklahoma State game that was a Friday night, right? Friday night game with Oklahoma State. People are watching on ESPN. You played your worst game of the year. Texas, when you had them on the ropes, a bunch of people watching, you flub that and don't find a way to win it. I guess Missouri, maybe there weren't, but it was still a fairly high profile game. But you just had some bad performances with a lot of people watching. The snow game against Iowa State, drew some extra attention because people were paying attention to that, and you had a wretched performance. So it would be nice. It would really behoove the brand to go win this game because a lot of people will be tuned in and there will be a good amount of hype for this. I'll go K-State in a very close one, 31-27.
I think this is probably, and the reason why I think Tulane becomes a little closer than we want is that you got a lot of eyes on this game, obviously, too, and I think a lot of the attention being placed on this game by Kansas State themselves. Not to say that they'll look too much ahead of Tulane, but I think human, just instinct will be to do so. So I think Kansas State has a little bit of a coming out party here because I think they put a lot of their attention and focus on this game, and they're due for kind of a bigger performance. It's kind of like the dog being let out of its cage a little bit here after you go after UT Martin and Tulane. Like I said, there's some questions about just if Ted McMillan's 100%. Arizona's defensive line is a little bit of an issue, especially early on in the season. The Friday night tilt here favors the home team almost all the time. So I think both teams play well. I think Kansas State just plays one of their better games of the season this early week 3. So I'm just going to take Kansas State 38-20. I'll just say that.
Wow. All right. The U.S. got K-State by 18. Look, Kelly Ford has K-State's win probability for this one at 70%. DraftKings has K-State in the early look-ahead lines favored by 8. DY, actually, just hearing you talk about it, I had K-State originally 38-30, right at that -8 mark. I'm going to make it 38-27, K-State winning this game. I'll take them by 11. The more I think about it, with Arizona making their first road trip of the season and coming into hostile territory into Manhattan in a top 25 matchup, it's going to be a rabid atmosphere. The more I like K-State, especially with the head coach and Brennan just in game 3 and a whole staff new, and you mentioned McMillan playing a little banged up probably in that game, so I'll take K-State by 11.
Although it's a similar spot to what Klieman and Kansas State were when they went to Starkville, but I don't think Kansas State was as good that year as Arizona is, so it's interesting.
Well, our top story, as we mentioned, brought to you by our friends at Alinco for all your home improvement needs. Local company based out of Kansas City. It is owned by K-Staters. They approached us because they love the podcast. They love listening to talk about the Cats. They are your kind of people. So if you need any kind of bathroom remodel, new windows, they've got you covered, and they are locally owned since 1986 in an industry where many have been bought out by national companies. So you'll deal with local people. Western Missouri, Northeast Kansas, the entire KC Metro, Manhattan, Emporia, Topeka, Wichita, Rossville, wherever you're at in that area, they can help you out. Go to alencohome.com. That's ALENCO home.com to check out their services, including free estimates. And you can call Sam at 913-961-2165, 913-961-2165. He will get you set up, and you can even talk a little K-State football with him there. Okay, I'm going to have to bounce here in a second, but I will just go ahead and give you my prediction off the top for this game. It's at BYU. I don't think BYU is a particularly good team. They're looking at potentially starting Gary Bohannon at quarterback, who is not somebody that's overly exciting. They've had a bit of a battle there this offseason. Kalani Sitake is pretty squarely on the hot seat, I would say, this year for BYU. They need a good season. They need a bowl season out of him, probably. This just feels like the type of spot where you get the Chris Kleiman dud. And I mean, it's happened literally every year. I feel like if you're gonna predict a K-State schedule here, I love Chris Kleiman. Obviously, he's much more good than bad, but there's a dud every single year. And this, to me, feels like a spot that makes a lot of sense. It's like a team that you should beat. We've got the altitude thing. You're going on the road to a new place. It is a pretty good environment. I mean, it can be a difficult environment to play in. They will fill it up. BYU fans they're good fans. And you'll be coming off the high of beating Arizona in that matchup. I feel like almost everything adds up here for like this. This is the spot where a dud happens. So I'll say I get a final score: BYU 30, K-State 24.
Can I do? I know you're going to go here in just a second. Can I just jump in real quick to that point, though? I do think we need to be like Chris Kleiman. We labeled it at the time as duds, and I think that was probably fair. But then those teams that a lot of the teams we labeled as duds. I'm not counting Arkansas State during the pandemic season. Now I'm just going to throw that out. But
how good of a team did you say Iowa State was last year?
Well, I was actually thinking about like people were labeling Missouri, Tulane as duds, Oklahoma State last year, because everybody thought Oklahoma State was a disaster, and then they won 10 games, and Tulane won 12 games when everybody thought that was a disastrous loss. I
just heard you on a show the other day making the point that Iowa State was really a bad team and got manhandled by, who was it, Memphis in a bowl game, and you let them put more.
Well, if you remove the Arkansas State pandemic, then Iowa State becomes your really only dud that I can really come across, though, I would say. Tulane beat USC in the Cotton Bowl that year. So made an 6 Bowl and beat USC. And then Missouri.
I think Tulane's a dud.
Well, look, Iowa State will sound like a whole bunch of excuses here, but
listen, I mean, 2019, what was the game at the end of the year?
Navy.
It was a whole game.
Well, no, not Navy. They should have West Virginia. West Virginia was not good. They should have beat them at the end of the year to win a ninth game. It's happened every year. I'm sorry. I love Chris Kleiman. I'm going to push back on this, you guys. Every single year there is one.
All right, West Virginia is fair. I forgot about that. I just wanted to make the point, like some of these that I think we do consider duds at the time, really, probably in hindsight, aren't as frustrating as they could be. Look, Iowa State in the snow, I don't know, man. I don't know what to make of that in a game where it seems like some guys were actually checked out, the circumstances of it. But, yeah, I mean, there's definitely some duds. K-State's not losing at BYU, though, and we'll outline why.
What I will say is I agree with Kurtz here. A little bit of a tricky spot. You're probably pretty hyped for that Arizona game. So a little bit of a letdown. And are you looking ahead? Because Oklahoma State's the following week. It's kind of like that West Virginia game. The way it is placed, you're going on the road in the mountains or right between two games that in your mind, human instinct is to hype up. And that being Arizona and Oklahoma State. Because Oklahoma State is, one of the contenders for the Big 12 title and beat your butts last year when you didn't play well. So, and then BYU will have their backs up against the wall. So I don't particularly love this matchup at this spot of the season. And I think this is one of those things where I've kind of spoke about throughout the entire offseason where, like the offense is going to sputter in a game or two early in the first half of the season because you're still working out through the kinks with new play callers, but you're also working out the kinks with guys that haven't done it before. And this is their first real test of a rowdy road environment, in my opinion, this particular year. I've even had some people say, like, Tulane, that one's such a snoozer to Kansas State. If the fans are motivated, could really occupy that stadium fairly well. So we'll see what happens. So this is kind of the first raucous road environment because I think BYU is going to be up for it. That coaching staff does have their backs up against the wall. So not a great spot, but their defense, Kansas State defense is good. Like I said, it's going to carry them early in the season. It's going to have to. I think this is that game. I'm going to take Kansas State, but it's going to be really low scoring in my opinion, and just a weird spot where the offense just never gets going, but BYU just doesn't have the dudes to win. So Kansas State's defense locks it down and gets a win. I'll say 20-17.
Yeah, BYU, I was just pulling up their schedule. DY, they week 2, September 6th, they go to SMU. SMU coming off a really nice year last year, so it'll be interesting to see the outcome of that game. And then BYU on September 14th goes to Wyoming in a road game as well. So, yeah, Wyoming last year made a bowl. Craig Bohl's gone now, so I don't know what to make of that Wyoming program.
And that would lend itself to more of what I am saying, that BYU is probably going to put everything they have into that Kansas State game, because the coach staff will have their backups back against the wall and perhaps already have 2 losses on the schedule entering it.
Yeah, well, I guess I kind of wonder, like, what's the energy like?
I think your energy is right in that situation. If you're 1-2 and your job is on the line, your kids love you, and we know the kids do love Kalani Sitake. I think BYU probably plays their best game in the schedule, and that's why Kansas State barely gets through.
K-State did go to Oklahoma State last year when things looked down for them and looked bleak, and then Oklahoma State won. I think Cowboys were 2-2. Going into that game, coming off losses to South Alabama and Iowa State. So
this seems similar, except BYU's not as good.
Right, yeah. I mean, there's no doubt that it's a hard place to play. I mean, I've watched a lot of BYU games late at night, and they pack the place regardless. Oklahoma went there last year and had a lot of trouble. If it wasn't for a fumble, I think BYU dropped back to pass at like the 1 or 2 yard line when they were about to tie the game in the fourth quarter, and the quarterback got stripped, and Oklahoma returned it for a touchdown, or maybe BYU was going to take the lead there.
I think this is just one of those games where Kansas State fans probably lose their mind because of how tough of a win it becomes, but it's just kind of what happens in Provo.
I think you just take a win. Yeah. We'll see what time that game is going to be. Do you think it helps at all, DY, that K-State, so BYU goes, they play an altitude in general anyways, but they're going to Wyoming September 14th, and they're playing an 8 p.m. kick. K-State plays Friday night. At least they get an extra day. I mean,
they get an extra day. BYU's used to altitude. It doesn't mean anything to them. I think, I know it's weird, but I think it helps BYU that they might be entering that game 1-2.
I just think that extra day at least alleviates some of them when you talk about travel and you talk about playing in the altitude. Hopefully that, preparation for a new opponent, that helps just a little bit. Any slight edge you can get, you take in the league, especially road games. BYU, 2023 record, 5-7 overall, 2-7 in the Big 12. Final SP Plus ranking on ESPN of number 76. The offense was 75th, the defense 94th. In the SP Plus, they are projected in the SP Plus on Bill Connolly at ESPN to finish 67th in the country with a projected win total of 4.3 on the season with 2.9 Big 12 wins. The offense projected to be 63rd, defense projected to be 84th. Returning production per Bill Connolly is 65% overall. That ranks number 55 in the country. Returning production on offense, 66%, number 52 nationally. Defense, 63.7%, number 51 nationally. Last year, net points per drive for BYU per Brian Freemount, negative 0.69. That's number 99 in the country. Offensive points per drive, 1.6. That ranked number 111th out of 133 FBS teams. Defensive points per drive allowed, 2.29, ranked number 74 in the country. Brian Freemount's F+ ratings had BYU number 77 overall, the offense 84th, the defense 78th. Kelly Ford had him number 69 overall with the defense ranked 80th and the offense ranked 62nd. Kelly Ford gives K-State a win probability of 79% chance to win this game. So actually one of K-State's higher Big 12 win probabilities. BYU started last season 4-1. They finished the season 1-6. One interesting observation, SP Plus ranking, BYU has moved downward 3 consecutive seasons after having that peak year during the pandemic season. In 2021, they were ranked 46th overall in the SP Plus. The offense was 15th, the defense 79th. In 2022, they dropped to 71st. Offense was 52nd, defense was 95th. And then in 23, they dropped to 76th overall, and the defense was 94, the offense 75. It was their second worst SP Plus final ranking in the last 20 years for the Cougars last season. You'll notice a trend, though, that defense 79, 95, 94 in the SP Plus. Each of the last 3 years, they have struggled there, and last year the offense was a huge struggle point for the Cougars as they couldn't find a quarterback. Keaton Slovis often banged up. Jake Ratcliffe came in. He was very meh. That's why BYU actually brought in 3 transfer quarterbacks. John mentioned Bohannon, formerly of Baylor, went to USF, South Florida last year. 6 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, didn't play the last several games of the year. His last game that he played in was October 15th. They brought in a couple other transfer quarterbacks, one from Utah State, one from Western Michigan. I don't know, man. They were 117th in pass efficiency on offense. That was the worst in the Big 12, 5.8 yards per pass attempt. That ranked 126 nationally out of 133 teams. They were 133 out of 133 teams, and sack percentage on defense at 2.85%. Their rushing attack was one of the worst in college football. I think their rushing success rate was the lowest. Their leading rusher was L.J. Martin with 518 yards on 109 carries. Second leading rusher, 485 yards in carries. They only rushed for 1,250 yards last season. So I can't see it. I think it'll be close early, but I think the talent prevails for K-State. Ultimately, I'll take K-State to win this game 34-20 and improve to 4-0 on the season.
I mean, I think at some point on the schedule, you're probably going to play a poor game against a team that you're a lot better than and escape by the skin of your teeth. I don't think you're just going to demolish every team that has a losing record by multiple scores. It just never typically works out that way.
Well, and I'll trust me, I'll have K-State struggling in a couple of these as we go through it. But
I don't see another team on the schedule with a losing record that they really super struggle with, like a losing record. Like they've had a one possession game with a team with losing record nearly every season. It's going to happen. It happens to teams like Ohio State.
I mean, look, I only had K-State winning the game against Tulane by, I think, did I have it? What did I put it at?
You had it by wider than I did. I had it by 10.
I thought, yeah, I must have. I originally at one point I was thinking 31-23, and then I made it 31-20, just to be honest, because you're telling me about Thompson, and Summerall's known for really good defenses, but I think the offense could take a little bit of time for them. So yeah, I mean, I got them winning by 11 there. I got them winning by 11 versus Arizona, blowing out UT Martin, and then winning by 14 against BYU. Just wait till that Oklahoma State prediction and week 5 on the next show that we do. And then I think West Virginia, the more I look at West Virginia, just as a look ahead to our next show, the more I think that could be K-State's toughest matchup in the first half of the season, for sure. That's what I think. I'm not a big fan of that matchup, especially coming off the game at Colorado.
I don't think it's their toughest, but I think it's where they're the most vulnerable.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough spot. We'll outline.
West Virginia's not a tough team by any means. They beat two bowl teams last year. That's it. And lost to Houston, by the way.
On a Hail Mary, to be fair.
They lost to Houston and beat 2 teams that made a bowl.
All right.
Well, we're also giving them credit for beating Pitt. You know how many games Pitt won last year?
Yeah, I mean, I know they weren't good. It's a rivalry game, though.
They were 3-9.
Well, I mean, credit to them, though. They went and played Penn State on the road.
You know who the 2 teams that 2 bowl teams they beat? They weren't the good Bulls. I'll tell you that.
Well, they beat North Carolina in the bowl, without Drake.
Yep.
Drake made it play.
It all showed that the bowl games don't matter. So,
who were the 2 bowl teams they beat?
Texas Tech, that you've shit on all off season.
I haven't.
You both that because they can't keep their quarterback healthy, and it's fair. But Texas Tech and UCF.
UCF is a team that's loved.
Right, but last year they didn't make a good bowl.
What bowl did UCF even make? I didn't even know they made a bowl.
I think they made with a Gasparilla Bowl, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's 7 teams. So basically what I'm saying is that West Virginia didn't beat a team last year that won more than 7 regular season games.
I see that I'm going to be ganged up on Oklahoma State and West Virginia in the next show because I think
you're not going to be ganged up on it because John agrees with you on West Virginia. I'm just saying West Virginia is not as good. Last year's pissy ass schedule is inflating their caliber, I think, and now match that with a tough schedule. Now I still think they're probably going to beat Kansas State, just to give you a hint, but that doesn't mean they're any good. You lose to bad teams sometimes.
I think they're decent. I mean, John wasn't high on West Virginia earlier, and I think he's maybe come around on them a little bit more. But I think West Virginia will present some challenges because one of their strengths is they're one of the best rushing teams in the country, and they got kind of a 3-headed monster with Garrett Green and White and Donaldson in the backfield. And K-State was bad against the run last year, so they're going to be better there. But we'll dive more into that. I think we'll have some disagreements in the next show, which will probably be pretty entertaining for all of you. But we all have K-State. No, wait, we don't all. John has K-State losing in the first quarter or the first third of the schedule. So John has K-State at 3-1 with the loss to start Big 12 play, 0-1. Yikes. And then DY has K-State sneaking out the BYU game and being 4-0 entering the game against Oklahoma State in Manhattan, where both teams could be ranked pretty highly in a game that will draw a lot of eyeballs, hopefully. I've also got K-State 4-0, and we'll see where they go in the next third of the schedule and then the final third. We're going to do 3 shows breaking down the schedule. This was the first third of the schedule, and because we want to go in-depth on each opponent and give our predictions. We'll do another show later this week on the second third of the season, make our predictions, break down each opponent. The second one's going to be really interesting because you're talking about Oklahoma State, West Virginia, Colorado, KU, some really high-profile matchups there will be fun. And then we'll make our final predictions of the final third of the season and where K-State finishes in the Big 12 standings. We have the Big 12 championship. Some of you might already know my thoughts. So more to come over the next week with our predictions on the schedule breakdowns in depth. And then we will have full in-depth offensive and defensive previews as well, breaking down the offense and the K-State defense before we head into game week this season, which the 3-Maw bonus edition episode with Curry Sexton will return once again this season. Can't wait for that. Hoping to do a player interview segment as well. We'll have our standard pregame and postgame shows as well. So lots of exciting content coming your way. Be sure, we haven't mentioned it before on here, but be sure to subscribe. If you watch on YouTube, the KCSN channel is now KCSN K-State Athletics. If you were previously subscribed, you can find the KCSN K-State Athletics channel. If you just search that, KCSN K-State Athletics, you can find us on YouTube. It's only K-State content from now on. We've separated Missouri, KU, and K-State out. They're all on different channels. So when you subscribe, you're only going to see K-State content or K-State shows, the Verbal Commit Pod when talking about K-State, as well on 3Maw. That's going to be on your feed. That's all that's going to pop up. So go subscribe. Give us a like or subscribe on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you listen to your podcasts. Leave us a review if you enjoy the show, because we're going to have a ton of exciting content and in-depth content coming your way as we approach football season in less than 3 weeks. Go support our sponsors at Alenco, Home Field Apparel, and Holiday Distillery. As always, we appreciate them who support us on 3Maw. For DY and John Kurtz, who had to bounce just a little bit earlier, I'm Cole Manbeck. Thank you for listening to another episode of 3Maw.